You're a nervous wreck, but you know that you need the presentation grades. You start to speak, but the words aren't coming out right. Your teacher begins to ridicule you, yelling and making your classmates snicker. You go back to your seat, holding back tears. For the rest of the day, the whole thing keeps replaying in your mind. For weeks, you avoid that teacher as much as possible. It's time for another presentation. You have not even an ounce of confidence left in you. You can't do it. It's too much. But your friends won't have it. For weeks, for days, they build your confidence back up. Later on, you're finally ready to present again. You stand up in front of everyone, chin up. You start to speak, but the words still won't come out right. You can't get over your fear. Your teacher is not surprised and yells at you again. This time, you don't hold back your tears. For the rest of your life, you carry the fear of presenting around. It's an unnecessary burden, but you could never let go. This story might sound familiar to many of you, but one thing about it may not be so familiar. What exactly is that fear? Was it a product of a traumatic experience? You might be asking yourself, what even is a traumatic experience or event? A traumatic experience is an incident that causes physical, emotional, spiritual, or psychological harm. The person experiencing the distressing event may feel threatened or anxious as a result. In some cases, they may not know how to respond, or may be in denial about the effect such an event has had. Examples of traumatic events include death, terrorism, moving to a new location, rape, or domestic abuse. A common side effect of traumatic experiences is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. According to the American Psychiatric Association, post-traumatic stress disorder can occur in anyone who has experienced or witnessed a traumatic event. Symptoms of traumatic event vary in severity, and they include intrusive thoughts, such as repeated involuntary memories, distressing dreams, or flashbacks of the traumatic event. Flashbacks may be so vivid that people feel they are reliving the event or seeing it before their eyes. Negative thoughts and emotions may include ongoing and distorted beliefs about oneself or others, ongoing horror, anger, or shame, much less interest in activities previously enjoyed, or feeling detached or estranged from others. And arousal and reactive symptoms may include being irritable or having angry outbursts, or behaving recklessly or in a self-destructive way, having problems concentrating or sleeping. Okay. Based on some statistics, if there are 300 people in this room, that means that a dismaying 210 of the people in front of me right now have had a traumatic experience in their lives, and 93 have had more than one. According to the New England Journal of Medicine, more than 70% of adults worldwide have had more than one traumatic experience, and 31 have 4 or more. Based on the same statistics, and one stated on the European Journal of Psychotraumatology, that the broad category of intimate partner sexual violence accounts for nearly 42.7% of the entire person years with PTSD. That means that a dismaying 128 of the people in front of me right now have been sexually abused. A few months ago, I read a story, and I've been thinking about it nonstop ever since. In the story, the girl writes that it all started one day when she was 7 years old. Her relative, 7 years her senior, sexually assaulted her. This vile crime lasted for 7 years. 7 whole years of her life. Her entire childhood was gone, stolen, robbed, and destroyed. A few months before she wrote her story, she was a freshman in high school, and she was crumbling bit by bit. She hit rock bottom. She was suicidal. A week didn't pass by without her breaking down into tears. It didn't help that her parents were putting pressure on her to ace all her classes and be an amazing student. She couldn't handle it. It came to the point where she would attempt suicide at least once a week. Sadly, she's not the only one who has experienced something like this. According to the United Nations, a dismaying 26% of the population of Egyptian women has experienced intimate sexual violence. And in the last 12 months, it accounts for 14%. Now, you might be asking yourself, how did she get out of this? How did she survive? Here's what she writes. I told my best friend. It felt so good to tell someone. So I told my other best friend, and the other one, and the next, until about 6 people knew. It felt so good to say it out loud. I felt like a little 7-year-old me, who I trapped inside me and refused to acknowledge, was finally starting to heal. She was finally growing. Now, another thing she says is that we all have our own scars, and at some point, we all believed they would never heal. But the thing is, they do. All your scars will heal, and with time, they will fade away, leaving you stronger and better than when you got them. I believe she's one of the strongest, most powerful people I've ever known of, and I feel so proud to be telling her story. Today, she is not just surviving, she is thriving. Now, her story motivated me to spread awareness and to make our society more aware of the growing epidemic of PTSD and traumatic experiences. To those who are looking for help, who want to get better, I'd first like to applaud you for your strength. One of my friends told me that being brave and strong doesn't mean never breaking or never having low points. It's taking the bad things that have happened, coming to terms with them, and becoming better. Help is something that we all need at some point, and acknowledging your need for it is the first step to recovery. On a basic level, I would tell you to talk to someone you trust, because it truly does make a difference. Putting what you feel into words and sharing them with someone else softens the burden of the trauma, and making your sadness tangible makes it so much easier to tackle and transform into a strength instead of letting it be your weakness. Thankfully, according to the multidimensional meta-analysis of psychotherapy, more than 67% of people recover from PTSD after completing its treatment. Now, you might be asking yourself, if I know someone who's been through a lot, how can I help? What can I do? It's natural to want to make someone you love and care for feel better again, but it's important to understand what has happened. There is nothing you can do or say to make the person's pain disappear. That will happen with appropriate time, rest, and support. The best thing you can do is listen and understand. No one who has had a traumatic experience wants pity. They want understanding. But how can you be a good listener? Well, listen. Sit there and listen. Don't interrupt and let them speak, even if it takes them a long time to get it out. And most importantly, don't judge. If someone is opening up to you, the last thing they want is your judgment. I'll repeat this again. They don't want your judgment. All they want is understanding. Hug them and reassure them. Make it clear that you'll be there for them, and tell them how much you love and support them. Don't keep anything in because they need all the support they can get. Be ready to be there to help them with even the most basic things, like running errands for them. And finally, be the light in the dark. Lead them to the light at the end of the tunnel, and be a good listener. And just by doing that, you may be exactly what they need when they fall apart. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.